Welcome back, everybody, to the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise here on Madden 21. As today, part one of the offseason is here. Today, we're going to be covering re-signings, who our new head coach is, free agency, and some draft preview stuff like combines and mock drafts. So as you can tell, we've got a lot to go over in today's episode. It's going to be a big one, so get your popcorn ready because we've got a lot to cover. Obviously, Season 1 did not go how we wanted it to, only finishing with a record of 5-11. But I think this team is going to look a lot different going into next season. And the goal is that we will better position ourselves for the long term as well as the immediate future. There are a lot of great pieces on this team, but there are also a lot of question marks. We do have quite a bit of draft capital, including 2 first-round picks, picks 4 and 26 respectively. We have our own second and thirds. We have 4 fourth-round picks. Some of those we're actually going to use. Maybe some of those other ones are going to be used for trade bait. We also have a 5, 2 6s, and a 7. So that gives us a total of, I think, 12 draft picks, which is a lot. How many of these are we actually going to use on players? That's to be determined. So we have a lot of players to re-sign. We did not re-sign anybody during the season, and we're going to save all of our big decisions pretty much for right now. There are a lot of young depth players, but there are also a lot of big-time starters like Leonard Fournette, Dede Westbrook, Cam Robinson, Ifeadi Odenigbo. Those are the big ones. So we're going to start with Leonard Fournette, who was a top 5 draft pick a few seasons ago, and he's been a good player for this Jaguars team. He hasn't been a great player. He hasn't really taken that next step, especially in a draft class that he was in that features so many elite running backs. So I think his career can kind of be viewed as a disappointment so far, but he is a talented football player. 3 of his 4 seasons he's ran for over 1,000 yards total, including this one, in which he ran for a little bit over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. However, we do have some breaking news from our good friend Adam Schefter. He says Jaguars and star running back Leonard Fournette have mutually agreed to part ways. This means Leonard Fournette will not return to the team next season. So Fournette will hit the open market, and he will sign with a different organization next year. The next guy we're going to look at is wide receiver Dede Westbrook. Westbrook was also part of that 2017 draft. He was used in the 4th round and has proven to be a good value pick. Westbrook is one of the better slot receivers in the NFL, and he has a really enticing skill set for the future. This year, his numbers are not phenomenal, but he only did play in, I think, 12 games due to an injury towards the end of the season. He finished with 38 catches, 538 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He wasn't great, but he was good. However, he wants 3 years for a little bit over $8 million a season, and that's just not something the Jaguars are going to do, so Dede Westbrook will be hitting the open market as a free agent. The next player we're going to talk about is Cam Robinson. Robinson was a 2nd-round pick a few years ago, and his career has been viewed as a disappointment thus far. However, he played really well last year. He was arguably the most consistent offensive lineman this entire season. However, he only played 9 games. He got hurt twice, and we still have not seen him produce at a high level for a 16-game season. So that is a major question mark. He's asking for $7 million in each of the next 2 years, so that's $14 million total. I don't think that's a bad contract for him. I don't think that would be an overpay, but I think giving him multiple years would be a little bit risky. Jacksonville's going to offer him $6 million for 1 year. He says no, so he will be hitting the open market as well. The next player we have here is defensive end Ifeadi Odenigbo, who was acquired at the trade deadline from the Minnesota Vikings, and he has been phenomenal. In the 9 games he played with Jacksonville, he racked up 7.5 sacks. He did not have a single sack this year with Minnesota and really transformed this defense. Not only did he play well, but the defense as a whole was better the second half of the season, and I think that can be attributed to how Odenigbo played. He only wants $2 million over 1 year, which is a bargain. We're going to try to retain him for a little bit longer than that. And Jacksonville and Odenigbo would agree to a contract extension, 2 years for $6.34 million, so that's a little bit over $3 million a year over the next 2 years. I think that's a bargain, phenomenal value for Jacksonville, and they get to keep their breakout star in town. We're going to look at a few other guys to potentially re-sign, including defensive tackle Timmy Jernigan, who was signed in the preseason to be mainly a run stopper. And I think he had a fairly solid year. He obviously wasn't great, but he did what was necessary, and I think he is deserving of another contract. The Jaguars would offer him a one-year deal worth around $6 million. Unfortunately, he would decline, meaning Timmy Jernigan will hit the open market. A few other young guys to potentially look at include cornerback Trey Herndon. Herndon was a starter last year on the other side of C.J. Henderson, and he was not great. He did lead the team in interceptions with 3, but I just don't think he played all that well. Regardless, Jacksonville would offer him a short contract, 2 years for around $6.9 total. Nice. Which is a little bit under $3.5 million for the next 2 seasons. He says no, and he will be hitting the free agent market. Next up, we got safety Geno Stone, who was picked up off of the Ravens practice squad last year. Going to be offered a 2-year deal worth around $1.7 million a year. He accepts, and he is back. Next up, running back Rodney Anderson. 1 year, a $2.3 million deal. He signs the extension. He was signed last year off of, I think, San Francisco's practice squad. I could be wrong about that. Center Tristan Colon Castillo will get a 1-year extension for a little bit over $1 million a season. Tristan Colon Castillo was signed off of the Jets practice squad before the Week 17 game against the Colts, and I guess he played well enough in that one game to stay in town. Defensive end Dwayne Smoot declines his 1-year offer for around $2 million, so he'll be hitting free agency. Cornerback Perry Nickerson will get a similar contract, 1 year, around $2 million. He does accept, so he will be back on the squad. And then the final player that Jacksonville would offer an extension to is Dakota Allen, the linebacker, for a little bit under $1 million per season for just 1 year. He would accept, so here's a full list of everybody who has accepted contracts, and everybody who's not on that list is hitting the free agency market. Jacksonville has a lot of cap space, roughly around $80 million, so expect them to spend some money. They have quite a few holes on this roster. The offensive line now has a big hole at left tackle. A new wide receiver is needed. The top-rated running back is Rodney Anderson. Needs some more help in the secondary, so a lot of holes on this team. So now it's time to see who's going to be the head coach, and I'm going to be honest here. I originally created Robert Saleh to be the head coach. However, after doing some research, I found out that Jaguar fans don't really like him, so I figured I would create somebody else. The new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars will be Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy's name has been swirling around coaching rumors for a number of seasons now, and he finally gets the head coaching job he deserves. So general manager Louis Riddick has officially chosen Bieniemy to lead this organization. And these two men, Riddick and Bieniemy, are the future of this front office. That's a lot of pressure on two gentlemen who have never been a general manager in Riddick, and Bieniemy has never been an NFL head coach. So now on to free agency, and there is some talent. A lot of running backs here. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Phillip Lindsay, Trent Williams at left tackle. Got some good defenders, including Yannick Ngakoue. I guess he did not re-sign with Cleveland, and he is now a free agent this season. So this isn't a phenomenal free agency class, but there are some good players who I think the Jaguars could look at a number of different positions. The first player they're going to offer is left tackle Alejandro Villanueva. Going to offer a 1-year contract worth around $12 million. A number of teams want Villanueva's services, as he is the second best left tackle on the market behind Trent Williams. So it's certainly going to be a battle to get him. The next player the Jaguars would offer is running back Phillip Lindsay to a 2-year contract worth around $7 million per season. He would sign very quickly with the Jaguars because nobody else really went after him, according to Ian Rappaport. Phillip Lindsay checking in on Twitter, excited to be a part of the Jaguars. He's not the type of back to get 25 touches a game, so expect them to invest in another running back later in the offseason. The other big fish Jacksonville would sign early in free agency is defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins to a 2-year deal worth around $10 million per season. Rankins can stop the run and go after the quarterback. So I think he could be a really good fit for this defense. Looking at everybody the Jags would offer, obviously the big fish are Lindsay, Rankins, and Villanueva. The other players Jacksonville will go after include wide receiver Nelson Aguilar. I know he's a meme, but the third receiver on the team is currently Colin Johnson, with Dede Westbrook, Chris Conley, and Keelan Cole all gone. Also going after some corners in Emmanuel Mosley and Trevon LeBlanc. Running back Boston Scott. Defensive end Roy Robertson-Harris. Linebacker Camus Grugier-Hill. That is a very fun name to say, by the way. Fullback Sethan Carter. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor. Guard Dan Feeney. And offensive tackle Roderick Johnson. Jacksonville trying to get some depth with these other signings, and obviously some starters and guys like Villanueva, Lindsay, Rankins, and potentially Aguilar. So we do have one roster move before moving forward, and that will be cutting tight end Tyler Eifert. He's making around $6 million this season, and he's just really not needed on this team. So he will be released and enter free agency and clear up some money for Jacksonville. So it's time to simulate to stage 2, see who's accepted. Obviously, we know Lindsay and Rankins did. Boston Scott, Dan Feeney, Trevon LeBlanc, and Tyrod Taylor have all also accepted, and nobody has officially declined their offers yet, so that's good. Gonna up the bid for Villanueva from around $12 million to $14 million. I'm okay with doing this because, well, it's a one-year contract and it's not that big of a deal. A lot of teams want him now that Trent Williams is off the market. And looking at the rest of our offers, not a whole lot of changes. Increasing the bid for Villanueva along with Camus Grugier-Hill. And that's about it. Everybody else is pretty much staying the same since no other teams are going after the other players who we would offer. Also in Stage 2, the Combines come out for all of the draft prospects. We'll be talking about them a little bit later in the episode. But obviously that 7.7 for linebacker Louis Kahn stands out. We'll dive deeper into that later in the video today. So after simulating now to Stage 3, hopefully we can get some more players to accept, especially Alejandro Villanueva to be the new left tackle. And unfortunately, Villanueva declined the offer. However, Grugier-Hill along with Rod Johnson, both accepted, as well as Roy Robertson-Harris. So that means we only have 3 more players left in free agency. The fullback Carter, corner Emmanuel Mosley, and wide receiver Nelson Aguilar. Now that Villanueva's gone, we kind of need a new left tackle, and I'm not starting Ben Bartch day 1. So Cam Robinson is still available, and I thought about him, but the Panthers are offering him a really big deal, and I don't want to give him a lot, so I figured it makes more sense to look at the trade market. And looking at the trade block, there are a lot of good young projects, but that's exactly what Ben Bartch is, and I'm looking for a starter, not a project. So the name I came across that makes a lot of sense is Seahawks left tackle Dwayne Brown. Brown is 36 years old. He's been in the league for over a decade, and he's been one of the better tackles in the NFL for a while. They just signed Trent Williams to a big deal, and they don't really need Dwayne Brown anymore. So I think adding a veteran on this offensive line to provide some leadership and early production as the likely starter at left tackle makes sense. We would offer pick 107. I think that is honestly too much for us to give up. They would say no, and I'm willing to still negotiate because I think he would be a really good pickup. So we would add linebacker Leon Jacobs to the deal. He's pretty much a depth guy, and we did just sign Camus Grugier-Hill, so he can be the new 4th linebacker. And the Seahawks would accept it. So pick 107 and Leon Jacobs are going to Seattle in exchange for Dwayne Brown. Brown is probably going to be a 1-year rental before he either retires or regresses really badly. But left tackle is a huge hole. Ben Bartch is not a starting caliber player. I think that's a move we had to make. So we do have a 5th-year team option, and this is a very interesting one. For defensive tackle Tathan Bryant. He's kind of a player who's on the fence because he's not terrible, but is he really worth a 5th-year option? And we are going to decline it, which means Tathan Bryant will be an unrestricted free agent after next season. He played really well the first half of last season. However, once Ifeadi Adenabu was acquired, Bryant's snaps were cut a decent bit. He did not play as well even in the snaps that he did get in. So I don't think we're opposed to giving him an extension next year, but he hasn't warranted that 5th-year option yet. So we're going to increase the bids for Aguilar, Mosley, and Carter. Nobody else is going after them, but we just want to make sure we get them. We would simulate to stage 4, and we would end up acquiring Nelson Aguilar and Emmanuel Mosley. Unfortunately, Carter just did not accept. I also did add a few players on the trade block there. Don't really take those into account. I was just curious to see what I could get through them. So now it's time to talk about the draft. Obviously, we have only 11 picks now since we traded one of them for Dwayne Brown. Going position by position, obviously the top quarterback is Iowa's Rodney Allen. He had a good combine. I don't think we're going to pick a quarterback super early, but I'm not opposed to doing it in the middle rounds. A guy like Preston Garrett would be interesting. Malik Edwards-Hoskins would be a fun player. Running back, we're definitely picking a running back. I don't know if we will early, but we need someone side by side with Phillip Lindsay. Wide receiver is a position we really need. Aurier Luco ran a 4.24, by the way. That kid has blazing speed. Now, Nelson Aguilar is a serviceable number 3 receiver, but, I'd rather somebody else. We're definitely going to look to draft a tight end. We did cut Tyler Eifert. I think we could use more depth there. Offensive line, I think we have 5 capable starters. However, I don't think we have a lot of long-term guys on the offensive line, so definitely going to look to draft a couple there. Probably not going to invest a high pick on an edge rusher. There are a lot of good ones. Guys like Devontae Cunningham, Jalen Robinson are both very talented. Interior defensive line was a need heading into the offseason. Now not as much with the addition of Sheldon Rankins. Linebackers, I'd like to pick a linebacker at some point in this draft. Louis Conyers, the projected number 1 pick. He finished first in every combine drill except for bench press. Ran a 4.33 at 6'4", 258 with nearly a 40-inch vertical. This kid's a freak. Corner, we're definitely going to look to add corners. Zaire Wiggins, Lamont Irving, John Paul Patterson, all good options in round 1. And then safety. Safety's a pretty big need. We did not touch safety, and I really very unsure on whether Gerard Wilson and Ronnie Harrison are long-term options there, and then there are the special teamers. So a mock draft was made for the first round, and I want to take a look at it. The 2 picks Jacksonville had, obviously 4 and 26, they picked 2 defensive backs. At pick 4, they would get Westlake safety Marcus Jones, and at 26, cornerback Lamont Irving. I think this mock draft is actually quite good, and I think if Jacksonville does end up with Jones at 4 and Irving at 26, I think that'd be a pretty successful first round. I think they're both really talented players. They have Louis Kahn, obviously going number 1 to the Giants. 2 quarterbacks in there, Rodney Allen at 8 to the Colts, and Jeremy Watson out of Cal going at 29 to the New Orleans Saints. Also, let me know what you think of that draft graphic. I plan on using those a lot during the draft episode, which will be obviously the next episode. Let's take a look at the free agency recap. A lot of good players did not sign, including Alvin Kamara and Aaron Jones. Here are all of our signings. I think we had a really good free agency. Didn't overspend, but we filled some holes and we got some good depth pieces. Jameis Winston signed a deal with the Colts, and I stand by that Rodney Allen pick in the mock. I think they still need a quarterback. Kareem Hunt signs with the Washington football team. Leonard Fournette is a Patriot. 5 years, $38 million. That's a huge deal. We would not have given him that at all. Dede Westbrook signs a 3-year, $21 million contract with the Giants. Zach Pascal to New England. We do not have to worry about him anymore. Chris Conley is a Brown. I did not see where Keelan Cole went. I don't think he signed anywhere. Obviously, Trent Williams is a Seahawk. Alejandro Villanueva goes to Washington. And Cam Robinson is, in fact, a Panther. Alex Mack to the Bengals. I think that's a really good signing for them. Yannick Ngakoue goes to the Washington football team. They've been aggressive signing Ngakoue, Kareem Hunt, and Alejandro Villanueva. Ryan Kerrigan is a Bronco. Ndamukong Suh of the Raiders. Dolphins signed Carl Lawson and Dalvin Tomlinson. Demario Davis is now a Colt. We have to play him twice a year. Chidobe Awuzie to the Raiders. Very fun name to say. Marcus Williams re-signs with the Saints. We looked at him, but he's going to miss a lot of next year with a torn MCL, so don't really want to give him a giant deal. And then Keanu Neal goes to the New York Jets. I'm very sorry for you, Keanu. So that'll end the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next episode is the NFL Draft. I hope you guys are as excited for that as I am. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I'm out. Peace.